Well, how's everybody doing today? Pretty good?
Good.
All right. Just like we rehearsed in.
Yes.
1, 2, 1. Mason is sick today, or Connor, so he won't be able to present. However, in the slideshow, this is all his work. We felt that it was kind of a good representation. You know, we didn't want to delve into everybody's work too deeply and eat up time, but so let's get started. You know, as the slide says, this presentation is over our project that we deemed the new territory. Miss McElroy, who's our Professor McElroy, Miss Mac we call her, she is the painting instructor, and she's all about really challenging our perceptions of art, our perceptions of painting, and really expressing ourselves not simply with oil on canvas. You know, she really wants us to not only look at the finished product, but also the process, as well as the medium used. And a lot of the projects that you're going to see in this presentation are really based upon the interplay between medium and subject matter. For example, this project is titled Ode to Cornell. This is an example of a Cornell box. It was named after the artist Joseph Cornell. Joseph Cornell would take things like small cigar boxes, old drawers, pretty much anything with depth in a frame, and put seemingly random objects in them. You know, he would take pieces of trash and collage things and small items and collage them together into a box to really try to convey an idea or an emotion, anything that he was feeling at the time. As you can see from Mason's, he went with a more minimalistic approach, this political in nature. These are actually pennies that he painted over very painstakingly, I might add. You know, represent a population. Myself, I went about it from the perspective of something that is more personal. I'm a knife maker, and my box, I apologize, I don't have it up here, it broke, I'm taking it home, but it was more about the cycle of creation, and in it I had sharpened down pencils that I actually used to sketch out designs, paper that I used to transfer the designs to steel, broken parts from knives I'd made in the past that didn't exactly work out well mechanically and broke, and ended up with a finished product, as well as one that was worn down, sharpening a pencil to be used again to draw more products, or to draw more knife designs. So, you know, again, it's not necessarily about the finished product, is what it represents and how the materiality represents that.
So our next project was working with string. So we work with string, thread, and sometimes even wire. So this is Mason's project, and he used acrylic with resin and gold embroidery. It was very fine detailed, he worked really hard with it, and it was presented on a pillow, which it's not really functional, but it's more for an art piece. And for my one, I actually did a 6-foot tall big painting, and with my string I shaped it into boats. So it was big ships, and for me that was personal because I'm from Australia, and it was a representation of the first fleet. So when England came to Australia and colonised my country, so that was very important to me. And the overall process, it was very hard, and we used a lot of string, so I think miles long of string.
You know, lots of string and wire. This painting with mud, pretty self-explanatory. You know, Ms. Mac really wanted us to use locally found materials and use actual dirt to make our own pigments. You know, somewhat like the painters of old would do. And so we literally went out around campus, collected different shades of mud. This is like a behind the stadium brown. you know, D&B, burnt sienna tone, you know, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, we actually went out and collected these pieces of, or these samples of dirt, you know, had to find about different shades and values, ground them up, mix them with water. Some students mix them with kind of a gelatin to make it more of a oil paint consistency. Mason mixed his, or got some chalk dust and ground it up, you know, to make a nice white tone. Mason's an acrylic painter, so naturally he approached it from the standpoint of painting with acrylic paint, even though it was mud on concrete. But, you know, he used charcoal dust and added it to it. You know, and again, with the interplay of materiality and subject, I chose a coal miner. You know, I was thinking, who else, you know, with no dirt and earth better than somebody that works, you know, hundreds of feet beneath it. And so I went about it, you know, like working like watercolor, and Jen kind of did too. You know, and that's what's interesting about this, is seeing the different approaches of the way that students bring their own methods and thoughts and processes into each project to make it their own.
And our next project was a tar, working with tar. So tar is like a roof sealant, and some of us did it on canvas, and Mason did it on a piece of wood. So for us, tar has a negative emotion to it, so we wanted to represent people who negatively impacted the world. So for example, this is Napoleon, and the tar painting that I did over there is of Nicolas Maduro, who is the current president of Venezuela. Another person did a modern person. It was Kanye West. So these three different people, they are very egotistical, they have their own opinions and negatively impacted in the world. So working with tar, it was a very difficult process because you had to work with layers. Because if you applied the pressure too hard, it can ruin the painting. So you work from like layer to layer, just like an oil painting. So you start from the base and then go up and up. The worst part of the project was the smell. It was absolutely disgusting because it's tar and it was very strong.
And this final slide is representative, kind of, it was our last project. It was somewhat of a grab bag of techniques and methods that we had learned throughout the semester. You know, Ms. Mack gave us a little bit of liberty as to what materials we wanted to use, you know, preferably with the, you know, the idea of reflecting a specific artist, you know. Toby, who isn't, I think she's sick too right now, but Toby chose to imitate a folk artist in casting things in concrete, you know, that reflected her personality. And Mason here, you know, kind of along the same vein, pun intended, as doing body parts, you know, chose to do a set of lungs, and used kind of the fire and ice composition as well, except instead of using string, they used felted wool with that acrylic, you know, to kind of convey the melting of, you know, ice over a warmer surface. We were all really different in our approach to that. I think that's one of the things that really makes this class so enjoyable, and, you know, what's nice about Ms. Mack pushing us so hard to be very creative and to, you know, not only solve problems, but also to, again, do something that's kind of out of our comfort zone, but also see how we incorporate our own styles into that. It's kind of a give and take of guidance and liberty at the same time, you know, that makes for some really interesting work. But for this one, I chose to do a piece out of microscope slides held together with wax. And, you know, again, kind of reflecting yourself in these things and posing a challenge, she asked us to do something that incorporated things in our daily lives that we didn't really notice, but that we interacted with every day. And so, like, I chose coffee grounds, you know, that represent my cup of coffee in the morning, making me jittery for a presentation. But, and, you know, an example of my handwriting, for instance, motor oil for my truck, you know, I mean, things like that, things that you experience every day, and you don't really stop and think about what you're using or doing, or, you know, that you just subconsciously think about and don't realize it. So to me, that was a very enlightening part of this project, you know, not only giving yourself a new perspective on exactly what is art, but, you know, examining yourself as well in the process.
Yes, so for my take, this is my project. I was inspired by a British modern artist. His name is Khan Griffith. His style, he works with acrylic, ink, tea, and alcohol. So I chose to paint with alcohol. So I mixed vodka with the acrylic paint blue, and with whiskey I mixed the browns and yellows. So it was a very interesting process because I actually didn't use a paintbrush. I used a bird feather and a wall pin to complete the entire thing. So it was a fun process, but very tedious. Khan Griffith is alive today, and I actually emailed him, and he's a really cool guy, and I was happy to speak with him.
Well, we didn't go too far over time.
You did perfect, yeah, let's thank